Love is Blind, Season 6, Episodes 3 through 6. In this video, I want to go over 4 different themes. 1, final decisions, who's choosing who, and what I think doesn't work, and sets people up for a blindside. 2, the reveals, who's excited, who's disappointed. 3, the Dominican Republic. And 4, we got to get into bean dip. Welcome to Reality TV Therapy with me, Dr. Diane. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Diane Strakowski, psychologist. I'm reviewing Love is Blind in this video. If you didn't see my last video, please make sure you check it out. It's so important that I'm breaking down attachment styles, what's happening, and in this video, I'm talking about the pairing of 2 different people in their love styles. But I want to talk about number 1, who's choosing who, and what I think is working and what isn't. And this season in particular, I feel like there's just more love triangles, that people are waiting till the very end to decide, and I think this is where some couples are going to go wrong. If you just think about the strategy, how would you feel as a couple if you are Chelsea and you're leaving your options open with Trevor and Jimmy? What about if you're Jimmy and you're leaving your options open with Jessica and Chelsea? Or you're Jeremy and you're leading 2 people on, Sarah Ann and Laura. Here's the thing. I've been watching this show from the beginning, and I really don't think that the love triangles work out. They have in the past, but only when you can convince your partner that they were your first choice. And I think what's happening is that when you do have 2 options, people get into their ego sense that they kind of amp themselves up, that this feels good. And in the end, how are you going to manage it with your partner to really convince them that they were your number 1? So this is where I think it's really going to backfire in the end. It's kind of like, do I want to win the battle or win the war? What I mean by that is that the battle is how do I get through the pods and get engaged, but the war is who am I really going to create a solid foundation with. So the problem I see here is that people are, instead of approaching it with humility, people are overselling themselves. And what's happening with Jeremy is that he's overselling himself. Even with Sarah Ann, he's talking a lot about sexuality, and then he's working too hard, and Laura's going to be let down. With Jimmy, we see that this backfires with Jessica, and she's obviously upset because he let her go for too long. Trevor, on the other hand, handles it really well. And he says to Chelsea, I just want you to find love. But it's really tough. And I can't honestly blame Jessica, the whole EpiPen. It's kind of iconic. But I think actually Jimmy could have handled it better. I really do. And this is where I think these things are going to implode. And we're going to see that today on Wednesday when the next episodes drop. But what I really want to say is you're going to blindside someone. Now, how can we relate this to actually dating? Because in dating, it's the same thing. You don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Like the same thing on a profile. If you have all these amazing pictures with lots of filters, you could be overpromising and then the person's going to be disappointed. And this is where Chelsea, I think, back to, talking about looking like Megan Fox, not a good thing. Same thing with Jeremy, saying that he has this, fat neck. Laura's going to be disappointed. These exaggerations blow up in people's faces. What happens often, and why I say this is love a blindside, even Chelsea, right? She's showing Jimmy that she's laid back and easygoing. And that's not Chelsea at all. We see her anxious attachment style, that she needs a lot of validations. And so this is why I think strategy-wise, as a couples therapist, I'd have to say, come in soft, come in vulnerable. But when you amp yourself up, it's not a good look. All right, let's get to the reveals. And I know this recap is a little bit out of sequence, but there's reveals that happened in episode 3, and now in episode 4, we get to all of them. Let's talk about Kenneth and Brittany. I actually thought this was one of a really good reveal. That Brittany and Kenneth, they're similar ages, but there's a lot of nice synergy between them. I like that during the reveal, Kenneth really says, I've got the prize. You're amazing. Thank you, God. This is so amazing. I thought this was one of the better ones. Now, is Brittany as attracted to Kenneth? I think she came in with low expectations, so I really liked the reveal, though. I thought that there was so much respect, and for me, it was a continuation of the pods, like, I'm honored to be your fiance. That felt lovely. Let's get to the second reveal, and that was with AD and Clay. This one, to me, felt a bit disjointed. Let me know in the comments what you thought. So they get engaged in the pods. And I talked about them both being anxious people. AD has some anxious attachment style issues. She's talked about like the red flags and how she paints her nails red. Clay has talked a lot about needing a lot of validation. But what's odd for me is that Clay is, before he proposes to AD, he takes out his Bible. He reads a Bible verse. But for me, again, that's a blindside. Like, that doesn't fit who he is, that he's also very sexual, very physical, a bit of a player. So I feel like there's something that just doesn't hook up for me. It doesn't sync up for me. Like, the thoughts and the actions don't really come together. So what did I think about this reveal? Well, I always watch for people's feet. If you're interested in someone, your feet are headed right towards them. And I don't have a clip of this because I was watching it just last night, but his feet go a little bit outward. And I was more concerned about Clay. Is Clay really all in on AD? He said something like, you've got a lot of back. And I was like, okay. But he's coming on so religious, thankful that God brought me together. We're in this forever. And then when he sees her in real person, I felt like there was just a little bit of miss. And so if I'm AD, I'm like feeling it like, wow, he was so much more verbal. And now all of a sudden we're in it together. But what bugged me too about Clay is that there is a lot of ego. He himself says there's a lot of ego, but he keeps talking about, it's been a lot. Well, everyone's been through a lot, but like, get excited. Look at us, Black love. I love that. And I think AD came in with realistic expectations. But to be honest with you, I just felt like Clay was super focused on the physicality. And I felt like the reveal was just not what it could have been. Let's talk about Jimmy and Chelsea. Ugh, this is back to don't blindside your partner, right? It's not a great look. Chelsea, on the one hand, is so excited. She keeps saying he's so handsome, he's so good looking. She's focused on his eyes. She's giving him lots of compliments. But Jimmy, I think he's trying the best he can, but you can see that he is disappointed, right? There's that one shot where they're hugging and just that slight second moment where he's looking like, oh crap. She oversold herself, right? She oversold and under delivered, and that's the problem. And then in the ITM, which is in the moment, you see the video where he literally says, like, she lied to me. This is going to be so hard. These couples are fragile. They've had a lot of time together in the pods, relative, but they don't know each other. And this is where the emotional and the physical has to catch up. This is so important. So I'm already seeing problems for this couple. What about Jeremy and Laura during the reveal? Laura really has an exaggerated response. I'm going to pass out. She literally like squats down. And I don't get the feeling she's going to pass out with excitement. I also think Jeremy hyped himself up. He presented somebody other than who he was. And I really think that Laura is disappointed here. Now, he is saying things to her like, you look better than anything I could have imagined. But what does Laura say? The nicest thing she can conjure up is that you smell good, like an outdoorsy, manly kind of campfire way. And she says, you're kind of what I was expecting, but she doesn't say I'm pleasantly surprised, right? She comments on his eyes And then there's this whole thing with like big feet, big hands. But I get the feeling, because later we're going to talk about the banana. I'm like, oh God, I just think this was a mess. Let's go to my third point. I want to move this video along. Now we're in the Dominican Republic. I guess they're not going to Mexico anymore, where all the couples are getting to spend their first night together. And then, of course, they're going to meet all the other couples. And at this point, to be honest with you, I'm feeling actually pretty good. I'm like, okay, we've got 5. Okay, maybe they'll get through this. But now we get to dig a little bit deeper. And we see the couples each spending their first night together, their early conversations. And of course, this is where we see AD and Clay together. So they're talking over drinks, and Clay makes some pretty ignorant comments to AD about her diet, body, and how he would still expect her to be hitting the gym if she was pregnant. Clay, not a good sign. Your wife is pregnant with your baby and you're expecting her to be doing squats and lunges. I just felt like this was a conversation that was going sideways. Let's talk about the other couples, because now we see Jimmy and Chelsea. They're on the day beds on the beach. And I said in my last video that I thought Jimmy was more the avoidant type, that he's not going to be super verbal. I think in the pods, he was as verbal as he could be. But I actually think that Jimmy is trying. He's really, even though he's been disappointed, right? He's trying to validate Chelsea. He's telling her that he's attracted to her, but you don't need to be a therapist to see this. She's talking about, am I your type? There's a lot of like leading kinds of questions. So I feel like Jimmy's trying, but he can't say that much. And she's like, well, what did you notice first about me? And he's like, your big teeth. Ooh, ouch. So this is where I think this couple is, again, hitting some problems. What about Kenneth and Brittany? I think they're doing well, right? They talked about it in the pods that they were not going to have any sexual contact. I think the first night, he's got his cap on, Brittany's got her makeup off. I like these two. They're talking about the rose petals on the bed. What about Johnny and Amy? Because I feel like this couple of all of them, they're like the most real. They're in the pool. They're talking about the water. And Amy is just upfront with, you're not my usual person, but she knew that going in. And so I feel like it's not a dig to him. It's more like her kind of adapting to them. And I think they're cute. Now, let's talk about Laura and Jeremy. I think Laura's got the ick from Jeremy already, that he's jumping into the pool with his Hawaiian shirt on, and then he kind of comes over and tries to kiss her. But compared to like Johnny and Amy, where they're a couple and they're like what you would expect, arms and legs around each other, I'm not seeing that. So I'm now feeling less excited about these couples, to be honest. Let's get to my third point. The couples where they have to meet. Now, everyone is spending some time with their partners, but we come down, as we always do, and there's plenty of alcohol, is all the couples get to see who were the other people from the pods, right? The women get to see the men get to see the women, and this is where we start to see things go downhill even more. At first, the women are joining together, the men are kind of joining together. But we start to see Chelsea feeling more insecure because her fiance is talking to AD. And can we talk about this? This isn't great, because I do feel like they're sexualizing AD, talking about how stacked she is. I just feel like, is it disrespectful to Chelsea? I feel like it's a bit much. Now, again, Chelsea has her own insecurities and she keeps needing to get validation from Jimmy, but I just didn't like where this conversation was going. All the couples are trying to present themselves as being happy, but why are we even comparing like who's happier and who's the strongest couple? I just don't know. So again, there's lots of things that you can see. You need more foundation for this to really work, or you've got to check your expectations. So my last point is going to be about the bean dip. I had to look this one up. Not only are they sexualizing AD, I mean, she is a beautiful woman. She works out, she's in great shape. But for Jimmy to keep saying that she's stacked, I think Chelsea could have handled this differently because she's there, she's sulking, she's talking to Amy. Amy's kind of echoing what her girl's saying, like your partner shouldn't be making you feel that way. But really, Chelsea, you could have pulled Jimmy and just say, I got to be honest with you. I need more from you. Because instead, what bothers me is Chelsea comes at Jimmy pretty hard. You hurt me. You made me feel bad. You. And what I didn't hear, the languaging is I need, I want. And that is really putting Jimmy in a corner. But she's sitting there, her toes are curling with the girls. She's like testing Jimmy and he's just coming up short. What does bean dip even mean? I had to look this up. In the Urban Dictionary, bean dip means flicking a woman's breast with your index finger. It's deemed bean dip because that's what you do, scooping up bean dip. I don't know. The whole thing was just a big ick for me. So here's the problem. Jeremy is kind of defending himself. He's the one who brings it up. And here's the mess, right? It was a private conversation between Laura and Jeremy. And now Jeremy, maybe because he's drinking, they all are drinking, he thinks it's funny. And then he brings it up that she told me to do it. And AD kind of says to Jeremy, don't you dare do that because I will fight you. And then it's like a he said, she said, and it's kind of like telephone. So, Jeremy then catches Clay's like, I've never even heard this term before, which again, we're all Googling it. And Clay seems kind of bewildered. And then Jeremy throws Laura under the bus and like says that she's kind of wild. This is not going to bode well for them, right? A secure functioning couple, A, would not have disclosed that. And B, would have taken more responsibility. So AD is like now confused. Also, like, did my girl Laura say this about me? Why would she sexualize me too? And I just feel like this is going downhill fast. But clearly, AD is offended. I would be offended too. And what I don't hear Laura saying is like taking accountability and then saying, oh my God, AD, I'm so sorry, girl. I didn't mean for that to be shared. I didn't mean to hurt you. Bad on me. I apologize. Like that is how I think she could have handled it. But here's some other, okay, so the bean dip thing has got to land. Not a good look. And we know now this is going to plant the seeds because Laura is now disgusted at Jeremy, her partner. I can't believe you did that. And we've got to talk, and he knows it. And when I said in my last video that Jeremy was the avoidant type, you saw it, right? He gets up and he says, I'm leaving, I'm going home. He can't handle the conflict, and he's not taking accountability that he did that, and he should have apologized too. Laura, shame on me. I shouldn't have said that. I was drinking. I had bad judgment. I'm sorry. How can I fix this? So I put actually the onus on both these people. I don't think it was just Laura and I don't think it was just Jeremy, but as a couple, this is not going to be good. Let's talk about Kenneth and Brittany. Actually, the one conversation of all the couples that I thought was going a little bit deeper was actually Kenneth and AD. Now they're talking about some real life stuff, like is Brittany going to be able to raise black children? And I think this is where the couple loves Kenneth and Brittany, that they have a lot of similarities in terms of their backdrops, but Kenneth hasn't dated a white woman before, nor has Brittany dated a black man, and I think this is going to be bigger, and what we see in the previews, I think there's going to be some conflict here. So now at the end, what they really leave us with is, again, Chelsea is flooding Jimmy. What do I mean? I want to go over that a little bit more. She is leading with so much negative affect. She's saying that he is lying to her. She keeps questioning him. And what I felt bad for Chelsea is she's saying that everyone in my past has cheated on me. Yikes. And you have to wonder, Chelsea, stop and take a look at all of this. It's really like Jimmy can't win, okay? Jimmy is already struggling with being set up a little bit. He's trying the best that he can. And again, part of this is on Jimmy too. I'm just trying to be neutral about this. So the problem I have is that Chelsea honestly looks like she's just had too much to drink. She is a wreck. She is painting Jimmy in a corner. And then Jimmy says, "You treat me unfair. I will always tell you that I love you." And I thought Jimmy's trying to do the best, but you can see it in Jimmy's eyes. He's just sinking. And here's the problem that I have with this, and I'm going to call it a blindside, is that Chelsea presented herself as someone else. One, she presented herself as Megan Fox, but two, she presented herself as an easygoing, supportive partner, not someone who is a high needs person. This is the mistake that the anxious person makes, okay? So important. If you are anxious, it's better that you say, "I'm a high needs person." Instead, if you pretend to be someone that you're not, you pretend to be the independent type who's really cool and easygoing, and then you see this, you're blindsiding your partner. So that's what I see is going to be a problem, because you're like, who are you? You were in the pods, you were one person, but now you're somebody else. So let me land my points here. What can we learn? By the end of episode 6, I'm not actually feeling many of these couples. I think we're going to see, as they say in the previews, that these couples, many of them are going to be in trouble. I think that, again, Jeremy's not going to be able to recover because I think Laura's already gotten the ick. I think that Clay might be so bodily, physically focused that I'm not sure where AD is going to go with that. I think Chelsea is expecting so much validation from Jimmy that she is flooding him. And then what we're going to see is we're going to see the other people come out. We're going to see Jessica with the EpiPen moment. We're going to see Trevor. I hope Trevor recognizes that he deserves better than that. And then we're even going to see Sarah Ann with Jeremy. So I'm going to get to that episode as soon as I can, but thank you for watching. Let me know, drop in the comments, are you an anxious attachment style? Are you avoidant? I have a quiz. I'll link it here. Go to my website, take the quiz, figure out who you want, because I want you to walk away from these videos saying, that's what to do, what not to do. What do successful couples do? What are these couples not doing? And what can we learn? And until we get to the next episodes, that's a wrap.